I like to live simply. And then I like to do things, you know, on my own, like creative a little bit, spend the time.
Are you a perfectionist?
Yeah. Yeah, too much a perfectionistic person. Yeah.
Back in the 1940s, Camille Schaefer grew up in wartime France. As a child, life was often difficult to understand. Camille turned to the world of art and escape. Later, she went on to study at l'École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. In 1972, she moved to North Carolina, where she's applied her own artistic talents to a traditional craft, quilt making.
My sister teach me how to sew. She's 6 years older than I am. And I learned from her.
Did you spend a lot of time on your own sewing?
Yeah, yeah. European people do. You know, children learn how to sew when they are 6, 7 years old.
Do you call yourself, or would you think of yourself as a conventional quilt maker?
In some ways, yes, if you consider like the, you know, the community quilt and stuff like that, but in another part, no. The community quilt is a bunch of people get together and decide on a theme, decide on a color, and it's going for a wedding quilt or for a baby quilt. And then my own is different.
How many times a year do you get together to do this?
Each time there is a wedding, each time there is a baby coming.
Has there been a lot recently?
Yeah, it has been recently a lot. We were kind of thinking there's too big a baby boom to really go on doing it.
Camille uses only a few tools in her craft and little machine stitching. While showing me how she designs a quilt, she talked about the inspiration behind her work.
Most of the quilt, I make them thinking of one person, because that's what gives me the theme. Otherwise, you know, every theme will be the same. I could take any theme, and then I will have a problem of choosing one. As if it is for one person, then I got a color range, I got an idea, you know, and usually it's appropriate to this. Of course, for the baby quilt, you know, the baby is not born, so I just think of the mother or the father.
Your workroom here is also your home. You just built these shelves up here. Why did you arrange them like this?
To be able to see the fabric, because I got so many and sometimes I forgot.
You have your own sheep, you mentioned, and do you shear your own wool?
Yeah, we shear the sheeps, and I clean it and spin it and knit it, weave it.
Do you ever kind of wish you could just go to a store and buy the regular kind of yarn? Would it be easier for you?
It will be easier and less time-consuming, but I wouldn't have the same texture or the same feel.
Camille has applied her quilting techniques to more than just blankets.
When did you make these curtains?
This year, it's an experiment, and traditional pattern, the Star of Bethlehem.
Quilting is not her only artistic interest. This is a self-portrait, one that incorporates a wide variety of techniques.
Are you taking an interest in stained glass?
A little bit.
Have you and your husband both worked together on it?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that something that is a secondary hobby? Which comes first to you?
Well, when I do it, it's first. And then when I finish to do it, then it's second, you know.
How many hours do you estimate that you'd spend working on one certain quilt?
Okay, a baby quilt, I make it in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks' time?
Yeah.
Do you sell these?
No.
Do you give them as gifts?
Yeah.
How could you even put a price on something like that if you wanted to sell it anyway?
I couldn't.
You couldn't at all?
No.
Camille Schaefer, truly an artist of imagination and diverse skills. She's developed a unique style, one that rises far above any stereotypes.
You know, when I first thought about coming and talking to you, I had no idea what you looked like, and I thought that you'd be much older. Don't a lot of people who make quilts, aren't they in their 80s?
Yes, a lot.
Are you something different?
I don't think so.
The Tom Corbin report, some actually found what they searched for and remain children of the 60s.
It's 20 years later. Children of the 60s are older now, a little wiser, and those like John Krause, content with the decision they made not so long ago. Once a marine biologist, Krause lives in the backwoods now.
I believe it would be necessary for the stability of the country for more people to get back to the land. I think that a stable country is more farmers, more small farmers, more subsistence farmers, and more people who work with their hands. Less lawyers and less doctors and paper pushers.
Music and the land. What helped Don Durrell survive years of war, Watergate, the nuclear arms race. When he left the Marines, he headed here.
Number one, you get to live the way you want to, and you don't have to put up with a lot of the hassles that you have to. Otherwise, I got sort of tired of just city hassles, and I can live for less money, and the government can't tax what I don't earn.
I had to give up a lot of things, and I had to start a whole new way of life that was foreign to me. And it's a very difficult transition, but I think it comes to, you make a choice, you stick with it, and you know that the hard times aren't always going to be that way.
There's not a whole lot of folk like Don and Nancy around, but a few have stuck it out, staying away from the same society that drove them here.
I don't know, I feel very fortunate, you know. I mean, I pay my dues too, but I feel still fortunate, very fortunate, to be able to really go with what I think and what I do. And I always enjoy touching material and color and, you know, kind of spirit of life in a way.
Camille and David Schaefer wouldn't have it any other way.
For some reason, I always feel I don't believe half of what I'm seeing and half of what I'm reading, and the spiritual garbage that you see out there,
yeah, maybe that's the thing that we have in common. We know how to read between the lines.
Just to look at trees and look at grass and look at these little bugs in the wood, and I don't know, I think it's fascinating and it's quiet and it's very restful. It's mentally, I think it's very healthy.
I feel essentially that I've been born nude and I should get away from life nude the same way. You know, I don't believe really in acquisition of material and stuff, but I like the process.
You know, you can do anything you want, just don't bother anybody else, don't hurt anybody else, and just try to break your dependence. You don't have to be dependent on everybody all the time.
Existing in a area that's beautiful, you know, that's not got the standard McDonald's, you know, Burger King syndrome that the United States is coming to. Here we see, you know, at this point in time, it's still pretty much like it was. I like that.
Activists of the 60s.
Many have.
You may think about a picture to hang on a wall, but News 13's Maggie Lauderer found some art that definitely won't fit on a wall or a house for that matter. This is art that, well, you must see for yourself on a Carolina back road in Madison County.
Take your time and listen. There is no set way to follow the trails. Any way is the right way.
And that's your introduction to one of the most unusual works of art you may ever see. It's strung across an isolated 8-acre field in Madison County in Camille Schaefer's backyard, a space she and her husband have opened to artistic expression, like this. It's created by French artist Gwen Gallimard. She calls it 33 Gorenflot Gap. Step 1. It's a 4-year project of stringing rope, 5 miles of rope. It's not your usual art form.
I don't know, I don't have a special fascination. It's just something easy to use.
But the creation wasn't as easy as it looks. Gwen had to spin her web high enough to walk under and through, along with the electrical wire for messages in the grass and trees.
The moon was very dark.
But the big message is a new way of looking at a field and sky. split into countless squares, trapezoids, and triangles, making the whole world a stained glass window. Gwen says there's no message in this media. In fact, she's prepared for a snicker or two.
The first thing we can think, and I'm thinking it's dumb to do something like that, to spend so much time, so much effort, so much things for something that is temporary, has no use.
But for the South Carolina artist in residence, the 4-year weekend project was worth the work, and she says it was a way of presenting her art to someone who normally wouldn't visit a museum.
If you exhibit in a gallery, the locals, people from Madison County, will never go there.
But the locals have come here to this Field in the Bluff community and wondered at Gwen's creation. And if this is step 1, what is step 2? Well, it's the unwinding, of course, which will come soon on the Carolina Back Road in Madison County. I'm Maggie Lauderer for News 13.
Now, if you'd like to see this piece of art, it's still hanging in the field, but the sound has been disconnected. You'll find it off Highway 209 between Hot Springs and Spring Creek. Look for the Azule Visiting Center signs.
I'm glad Gwen doesn't mind if we snicker, because that was kind of funny. Art can be funny at times.
Well, speaking of Madison...